sure to check out Agelessgeeks.com for your figures and collectibles. Be sure to check out our podcast, hosted by me, Daredevil19, and Starblast Studios. The link to our podcast on Spotify is in the description, and we do a lot of awesome topics from figures to anime and just a ton of other stuff. So what is going on, my fellow collectors? How is everybody doing today? Daredevil19 here, and today we are going to be taking a look at the 12 World Toys, or TW Toys, Black Warrior, aka Snake Eyes. This appears to be from one of the G.I. Joe movies, which I am perfectly fine with, because Ray Park was the best part of those G.I. Joe movies. But this is a really cool looking figure. But the question is it a good one or bad? Does it have QC issues or none? Let's find out! So without further ado, let's take a super duper quick look at the box. Alright, so here is the front of the box. Nice image of Snake Eyes there. There is the Arashi Kage symbol on the side. There's the back with the warning and blah blah blah. And then the other side has another Arashi Kage symbol. Now moving on to the detail. The detail on this Snake Eyes is seriously some amazing stuff. Especially with this being a third-party company. This is pretty much like buying a legit figure from a legit figure line. These third-party companies are not messing around. They're making some great figures for us. The cloth clothing was done incredibly well. The mask looks great. The upper torso armor too. I love all the buckles and belts and straps, and I love how they actually tied the sheath onto the back of Snake Eyes with actual thread. The little detail like that just blows my mind. That one little pouch on the back falls off easily, so be careful with that. One minor issue is the armor on the upper torso does cover his neck entirely, so it looks like he doesn't have a neck. But besides that, this is really a solid release from TW Toys. But I also did run into a little bit of a bigger issue. With the left shoulder armor, it came unglued, so I had to re-glue it, but it was extremely difficult to do because it's just glued by a little tiny cloth strap, so it was difficult gluing it back on there, but I was able to do it. So now moving on to the height for Snake Eyes here, to the very tippy top-a-roo of his head. It looks like he's about 6.5 inches tall. Now let's see him compared to some other G.I. Joe figures. So here he is compared to the Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified series line. So starting on the left, we do have the first release Snake Eyes with a custom head sculpt. Then we do have the solo movie Snake Eyes, horrible figure. Then we do have Baroness, the classic version. Then we do have the classic version Storm Shadow, and you can see he's a little bit bigger than them. And then here he is compared to the NECA Ultimate Edition Armored Last Ronin, Michelangelo. Then we have the Figure Art Naruto, we have the Mezco Bishop, and then we have the Marvel Legends comic version Black Panther. So there is the height and height comparisons. Now let's take a look at his accessories. Alrighty, so now moving on to the accessories. Snake Eyes is included with a pretty good amount of dope stuff. So we do get the 2 Uzis, the handgun, the 2 knives that are identical. We do get the 2 swords and then 10 alternate hands. We also do get a stand. As you can see, you just screw it in right there, and then all it does really is swivel on the leg, and then the clamp just hinges. And then it does slide open on the bottom, so you could store accessories in there, I guess. But taking a closer look here, I love these swords because they're made out of actual metal. I've never gotten swords made out of metal from a figure. They do both fit in the sheath fine. The black sword looks pretty cool on the top. The crossguard is loose on mine. My favorite one is the silver bladed one. I also did have an issue with the handle coming off the black sword. And the handgun and the knives turned out really good too. The sculpting on these are incredible. And then they do holster, and the holster and the holster for the knife as well. Then we do get a pair of Uzis. The clips do come out, but they do fall out easily. But I love the mold or the sculpt of the Uzis. They look awesome. Then we do get the 10 alternate hands here. So starting on the top left, we do get a pair of fists. Then we do get a pair of gripping hands for the swords, then trigger finger hands. We do get some open resting hands, then some open splayed out type hands. They did a great job with the sculpt and paint on them as well. I like that grayish paint they added on the black there. And they are very simple to swap out as well, and that is definitely a good thing. So now moving on over to the articulation with the neck and head. He looks down that much, looks up about that much. You get okay pivot at both the joints there, and it does swivel as well. The torso crunches forward decently, back a little bit. His cloth goods and armor does restrict it a bit. You do get a little bit of a pivot there, and then it does swivel as well. You get a little bit of a circular motion at the shoulder. They go out a little more than 90 degrees. They do go up and down. You do have bicep swivel. I believe you had double jointed elbows, but it's restricted. Goes about 90 degrees. Then the wrists swivel and hinge. The legs kick forward about 90 degrees. They don't go back at all. And he can't Van Damme it, but they go out a little more than 45 degrees. You get thigh swivel, double jointed knees. The ankles swivel, hinge up, alright, hinge down, okay, and then they do pivot a little bit. Yeah, the pivot's a little odd. It's not a figure that you could put in the most dynamic poses, but overall, I definitely dig this figure. Yeah, there's a few minor QC issues, but they aren't so bad that I don't ever want to buy a figure from them ever again. The figure actually turned out really good, and now it makes me want to buy more from 12 World Toys. Storm Shadow is definitely next. The cloth goods look great on this. Plus, TW Toys did an incredible job on the clothing, his armor, his gear, and all the buckles, belts, and straps. So the articulation is pretty good, but it's not the best. As I just mentioned, it's not super dynamic because it does get restricted a little bit, mainly because of like the cloth goods there, which is to be expected. You can still put them in some nice poses. You also do get a lot of goodness when it comes to the accessories, so it gives you more display options with Snake Eyes, and that is most definitely appreciated. So now moving on to my rating for this Snake Eyes. For detail, I think I'm gonna have to give him a 9.4. Articulation, I'm gonna give it a 7.2. Accessories, I'm gonna give it a 9.2. So now for my overall rating, I'd have to give it an 8.9. And now for the QC and price rating. So for the QC issue rating, I'd have to give it an even 8. And then the price rating, I'd give it an 8.4. But anyway, that is my review of the 12 World Toys Black Warrior, or as we know him, Snake Eyes. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments your thoughts and opinions about the figure below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, I will catch you on the next episode of Daredevil 19, and I will also see you guys later.